Pani Iryna, щиро дякуємо. Будь ласка, the floor is yours.
Дякую. Dear Chair, dear participant states representatives, dear guests, it is a great pleasure to me as a representative of NGOs from Ukraine dealing with the freedom of movement for many years, and at the same time coordinating a network of organizations from over 15 participating states to start a discussion on the issue which face numerous challenges and requires ever-growing engagement of the participating states to deal with them with a purpose not to allow evident negative trends to become predominant. Overall situation with the freedom of movement of people may be identified as ambitious one. We have to acknowledge the progress done by many participating states to ensure better conditions for legitimate travel, softening and even abolition visa regimes, facilitating border crossing procedures within recent years. In many cases, the procedures to leave and enter the countries were facilitated, new safe and reliable biometric documents introduced visa regime either softened or abolished. At the same time, current political background remains rather negative, with migration flows, including asylum seekers and refugees, followed by political manipulation with the migration agenda, generated widely spread migration phobia, which has been translated into remarkable success of far-right political views throughout the OSCE area, which exploit migration fears. New regional conflicts, military escalation, annexation of territories or of the sovereign states became a powerful challenge, preventing millions of people from the legitimate travel. Visa regime in some cases were reintroduced. Migration crisis in Europe has generated high level of uncertainty when it comes to the further facilitation of the travel and migration regimes of OSCE area. The government are often forced to tighten migratory policies, strengthen border checks, raise additional requirements to the traveling third country nationals. We are still too far, unfortunately, in the OSCE area to form the common vision of the fundamentals of the free travel of people, even if this travel is not aimed at permanent immigration and job placement. Many countries launch and continue to pursue visa facilitation and liberalization policies for the third country nationals. The most remarkable process has been initiated by the EU through the visa liberalization for the countries of the Eastern Partnership Initiative. For example, Moldova has enjoyed visa-free travel to the EU since 2014, while Ukraine and Georgia has reached the benchmarks and awaiting final decision of EU Council in up to the end of this year. Meanwhile, the visa liberalization process has created a positive policy environment where the public visibility of the reward produced significant pressure on the governments and decision makers to implement a series of difficult and sensitive reforms. In Ukrainian case, which my organization has been monitoring closely, the government has succeeded in introducing major legislative changes and setting up key institutional mechanisms to tackle, for example, corruption, improve essentially border management and migration policy, etc. And visa liberalization introduced by the EU for Eastern Partnership countries, a similar way as it was done for the Western Balkans a few years ago, may serve a success story where conditionality has been applied to help the target countries to improve various migration-related policy and then be rewarded with the visa-free travel for their respective citizens to enter the Schengen area. At the same time, Further application of the visa liberalization model requires trustful relations between the countries. Therefore, evident deficit of trust in the OSCE area may restrict the future steps for mutual or unilateral visa and travel liberalization. For example, regional conflicts in the OSCE area is another challenge which generate additional barriers for people. Ukrainian case is also very relevant to illustrate the scope of emerging challenges. In Crimean Peninsula, in Donbas and east of Ukraine, legitimate travel rights of millions of people, residents of Crimea and Donbas, have been essentially damaged. According to our estimation, over 2.3 million of people in Crimea and over 5 million people in Donbas are directly damaged when it comes to their travel rights. In particular, legitimate issuance of Ukrainian travel documents has been interfered and abandoned. Consulates and visa centers of the third countries in the conflict zone were closed. Also, in Crimea, unfortunately, passports were issued trapping their holders at these passports, for instance, cannot serve as legitimate documents for travel to the EU. As an outcome, the coalition over which my organization presides estimates that total number of the residents of Crimea and Donbas traveling abroad, not counting Russia, has decreased by 5-10 times. My organization witnessed that these practices may also have, to a large extent, dramatic consequences on indigenous population. Our observation indicates that leaders, Crimean population, Crimean Tatars, face obstacles that some can interpret as banning entry to Crimea. Currently, they reside in mainland Ukraine without a chance to even visit their home. Some other Crimean Tatars leaders who are staying in Crimea appear not to be able to leave Crimea due to the politically motivated investigations. So, as the problem is massive and multiple one, our organization identified the Crimean Tatars as the first ethnic group in Europe in 21st century, de facto deprived of the normal way of domestic and international travel. While this situation is one of which I have detailed information, I'm aware through our networks of partner organizations of several other situations across the region where the freedom of movement of different communities is negatively affected. These are just a few newly emerged elements of the puzzle which further complicate the situation with the legitimate rights of travel in the OSCE area. In conclusion, my recommendations to OSCE participating states are: firstly, to make greater efforts to protect rights to freedom of movement where these have been curtailed, and secondly, to support countries which fulfill all technical criteria foreseen by visa liberalization action plans. Thank you for your attention.